How did an aircraft engine company compete for over 100 years against the brand that literally invented the car and actually beat them after 120 years of competition? And how did BMW survive when Mercedes almost bought them entirely? This isn't just a rivalry between two car brands. This is a story of survival, ego, and engineering. In 1886, Carl Benz patented the world's first automobile. Around the same time, Gottlieb Daimler was developing high-speed engines. In the early 1900s, the name Mercedes emerged, named after the daughter of an influential dealer, Emil Jelinek. By 1926, Benz and Daimler merged. Mercedes-Benz was born. Whereas in 1916, BMW began as an aircraft engine manufacturer. That blue and white logo was not a design choice. It symbolized spinning aircraft propellers against the Bavarian sky. Then came World War I. Germany was banned from producing aircraft engines. BMW lost its purpose overnight. So the company adapted. First motorcycles. Then, slowly cars. But survival was not success. By the 1950s, BMW was bleeding money. And that's when Mercedes saw an opportunity. In 1959, BMW stood on the edge of bankruptcy. Mercedes-Benz stepped in. With a plan to acquire the company. BMW would disappear, and the rivalry would end. Before it even began. But it didn't. A group of shareholders, led by the Quandt family, blocked the deal. Somehow BMW survived. How does the company transforms from just surviving from Mercedes to compete with Mercedes? And actually beat them? That transformation came from one bold decision. BMW stopped chasing luxury for passengers and started building luxury for the driver. While Mercedes perfected comfort and prestige, BMW engineered control, balance, and emotion. The luxury world split into two parts. Comfort on one side, driving pleasure on the other. And that split created something bigger than competition. This is where the rivalry begins. Welcome to The Ultimate Rivalry, Episode 1. BMW versus Mercedes. In 1975, BMW fired the first real shot. They launched the 3 Series. Small, light, perfectly balanced. It wasn't designed to be admired. It was designed to be driven. Mercedes answered with the C-Class. Refined, comfortable, luxury. Where BMW chased excitement, Mercedes delivered effortlessly. Then the battle moved up. BMW released the 5 Series. A sports sedan in a business suit. Mercedes responded with the E-Class. A luxury machine with executive authority. These weren't just cars. They were statements. If you drove a 5 Series, you were telling the world. You loved the road. If you drove an E-Class, you were telling the world. You had arrived. But the real war was waiting at the top. BMW launched the 7 Series. They aimed straight at the king. The Mercedes S-Class. The gold standard of luxury. For the first time, Mercedes was being challenged. On its own throne. And then, things turned aggressive. They wanted dominance. BMW created M Division. A team built to take racing technology and put it on the street. Mercedes answered with AMG. Raw power. Thunderous engines. More dangerous. And then came the legend. The BMW M4. Built for racing. But sold to the public. It didn't just win championships. It humiliated competitors. Including Mercedes. It was about proving who built the better machine. The rivalry didn't stay on the streets. It moved to the track. Because in Germany, racing isn't just sport. It is a proof. Touring car championships. DTM. Endurance racing. This was where reputations were made. BMW brought balance and precision. Mercedes brought power and force. Every lap became an argument. Every overtake was personal. The BMW E30 M3 dominated touring car racing, becoming the most successful touring car in history. Mercedes answered with the 190e, a car built to fight BMW on the track. This wasn't racing. This was brand warfare. But the rivalry didn't stay quiet. From boardrooms to billboards, it went public. Ads responded directly to competitors. And they mocked each other. In 1990, on a deadly stretch of road in South Africa called Chapman's Peak, Mercedes released a powerful ad. A real man had survived a horrific cliff fall because he was driving a Mercedes. The message was clear: Mercedes meant safety, engineering, survival. It was emotional and award-winning. And BMW watched carefully. Days later, they struck back. On the exact same road. This time, a BMW took the curve. And didn't crash. It held the bend perfectly. The narrator said. BMW beats the Benz. But it indirectly whispers something else. BMW beats the Benz. It wasn't loud. It wasn't rude. It was brilliant. And the advertising war had officially begun. From that moment, the rivalry turned into public chess. BMW showed a Mercedes truck, carrying BMW cars with the caption, "Mercedes can also bring driving pleasure." And BMW also mocked Mercedes in Halloween, with Mercedes car with the BMW car cover. Now every car can dress up like its favorite superhero. The internet simply exploded. In one ad, the Mercedes logo spun on screen and transformed into BMW's logo. One message. Speed leads to BMW. Then came the line. Speed up to see us. Mercedes answered immediately. They used BMW's iconic kidney grille and placed their own badge on it. A quiet flex that shows Mercedes' superiority. The rivalry was no longer subtle. This is mirror branding. By constantly attacking each other, they tell the world, there are only two brands that matter. Everyone else? They're just background noise. In 2016, when BMW turned 100 years old, Mercedes released a congratulatory ad. Thank you for 100 years of competition. But in tiny text at the bottom. The previous 30 years were actually a bit boring. A reminder that they invented the car. BMW just joined the party. But the most legendary moment came in 2019. When Mercedes CEO Dieter Zetsche retired. BMW released a cinematic tribute. A man leaves the Mercedes headquarters for the last time. Gets driven home in a Mercedes S-Class. Walks into his garage. And pulls out a BMW i8. The screen fades to black. Free at last. The message was brutal. Even the Mercedes boss chooses BMW. Mercedes replied online with calm confidence. Thanks for the suggestion, but we're sure he's switching to EQ. Respectful. Sharp. Perfect rivalry. By attacking each other. They make each other bigger. They tell the world, pick a side. And once you do, you rarely switch. This isn't just marketing. It's brand psychology at its finest. A rivalry so powerful. Even their jokes became history. As the rivalry evolved on the road and in the minds of buyers, it eventually found its most indisputable battleground. Sales figures. In the 1970s, 80s, and 90s, Mercedes was the undisputed sales leader in global luxury markets. Why? Because they built what buyers wanted most at the time. Prestige. Refinement. Status. Mercedes was more than a car. BMW was still the challenger. Young, agile, and beloved by enthusiasts. But not yet a sales powerhouse. Through the 1980s and 1990s, Mercedes consistently outsold BMW globally. And often by wide margins. As the 21st century began, BMW began to close the gap. In the late 2000s, in several European markets and the United States, BMW began outpacing Mercedes in annual sales. By the early 2010s, BMW was consistently challenging Mercedes for the top spot, especially in key markets like the United States. This was the first era where BMW wasn't just fighting philosophically. It was fighting financially. In the following decade, the rivalry reached new heights. Mercedes invested heavily in SUVs. The GLC, GLE, GLS, rapidly expanding sales volume. BMW countered with its own X-Series lineup. X3, X5, and X7, targeting both performance and luxury buyers. By the mid-2010s, the difference in annual sales between BMW and Mercedes shrank dramatically. For the first time in decades, the battle was neck and neck, with leadership changing year to year. In 2021, Mercedes reclaimed the global luxury crown. A sign that their broad lineup and SUV dominance still resonated. But BMW wasn't done. In 2022, BMW surged ahead once again. BMW delivered approximately 2.10 million vehicles globally, while Mercedes-Benz delivered roughly 2.04 million. That narrow victory meant BMW finished the year on top, the world's best-selling premium brand for that year. This was a turning point. The rivalry had moved from who builds the better car to who builds the better business. And the numbers became the scoreboard. In 2023, BMW widened the gap. BMW sold about 2.25 million vehicles worldwide, while Mercedes-Benz remained near 2.04 million, a lead of more than 200,000 units. Then, in 2024, BMW again held the title of the world's top luxury seller, with about 2.20 million vehicles delivered. Compared with Mercedes-Benz's approximately 1.98 million, BMW was not just competing. It was dominating the very market Mercedes had once defined. The global picture was one thing, but in regional markets, the rivalry became even more intense. In 2024 in the United States, BMW set a record, selling nearly 371,000 vehicles, about 47,000 more than Mercedes in the same period. And that trend carried into 2025. In the third quarter of 2025 alone, a BMW delivered roughly 514,620 vehicles. A Mercedes sold about 441,500 vehicles. These quarterly bursts weren't just numbers. They were statements. BMW was winning buy-in from buyers older, younger, and global. Mercedes was still strong. But the dominance? That was gone. This rivalry isn't a one-off sales spike. It's a legacy fight. Mercedes set the benchmark. BMW recalibrated the playing field. In this war of definitions, every sold car is a point on the scoreboard. And in this rivalry, every year is a new chance to lead. Let me ask you a simple question. If you were given a free S-Class and an M5, but you could only keep one for 10 years, which one are you picking? This 100-year war is the greatest marketing collaboration in history. By constantly attacking each other, they've convinced us that these are the only two choices that matter. It's a psychological moat that keeps rivals perpetually in third place. This wasn't just competition. It was evolution. Because without Mercedes, BMW wouldn't push so hard. And without BMW, Mercedes wouldn't innovate so fast. Together, they made each other legendary. And as engines turn electric, as software replaces horsepower, as the future rewrites everything we know about cars, this rivalry isn't ending. It's entering its next chapter. And this was only episode 1 of the ultimate rivalry. Subscribe for the business code.